Hey, I'm T.A. Charlie, and welcome to The Road to Concord with Professor Joe Bakanovic. Homeroom is on Rumble. You just go to Rumble and search the channels for The Road to Concord. It's one word. When you find it, you go ahead and you click follow. It might mean you got to set up an account, but it's fast, it's easy, it's free. I did it, you can do it. For those technologically challenged members of the class, you can also catch us on Facebook and YouTube. After the show, it's uploaded to Podbean, iHeartRadio, Spotify, and BitChute. Just look for The Road to Concord. You can go to the blog page, that's theroadtoconcord.com. That's where you'll find all your show notes, study notes, and handouts for the class. The phone is working. If you don't know how to call in, email us and we'll think about it. Finally, you can email a professor at joe@theroadtoconcord.com. He's a little slow, but he'll eventually get around to emailing you back. This show is currently mainly listener-sponsored. If you are interested in advertising your business on the show, please email us. With that said, we ask for your participation on a value-for-value basis. If you find our show of value to you, then you provide an equivalent portion of your labor and treasure through the donate link on the Road to Concord blog page, the show description on Rumble, and in the comments on the other streams. And thank you to all of you who have and will support this show.
Good morning. Welcome to the Road to Concord. Today is May 14th. It's a Wednesday. No, it's a Thursday. Yeah, Thursday, May 14th, 2026. I'm your host, Joe Bakanovic, and I have been left unattended. Well, not entirely. My only Uber watcher at the moment is a glitchy AI pretending to be a person named Charlene. And I seem to have become more than she can handle this morning in the pre-show. I've been entertaining myself. And because of something that recently happened, we're going to have a showdown, a throwdown showdown between two of our class members here. Deltaros and Bolt Weevil are going to have to go at it, and they're going to have to fight over Natasha. But Natasha doesn't want either one of them to get hurt because they're both her friends in real life. So I told her that they can fight like Howard and Raj did that one time on The Big Bang Theory. Now, if you've never seen it, it's not going to make any difference to you. But they can spend the entire day circling each other, doing this, talking smack about how they're going to whoop the other one until somebody gets bored and leaves. But Bolt Weevil, it's going to require both of you to put on your tights. One of you has to wear blue. The other has to wear red. So you're going to have to decide, do you want to be Howard or Raj? Because I'll give you the choice, and Bolt Weevil will have to be whatever one is left. So you can just talk smack, walk around in circles, pretending they're going to be all big and bad until somebody gets tired and leaves. Yes, ma'am?
Day one of Charlie being gone. And this is what I have to sit through.
I am triple caffeinated and 4 times unleavened donated. If you're not a regular class member, that means I've had 3 Diet Cokes and 4 cookies. Sugar tends to have an interesting effect on me. I start pinging off the walls. This boat ride is like, oh no, we're in trouble. Yeah, a little bit. We're going to be talking about Islam today. I need to entertain myself a little bit. Look, serious subject. I'll try to get in serious mode here. I don't like teaching this class, but folks, we need to know about this. So let me just get going. Go to the Road to Concord right up here, and up here where it says Islam. This is the class outline. That's the page I'm on right here. And we're going to be dealing with the historic record at this point in time. Okay. So today I go to the class outline, which is right here, and I'm going to teach from it today. Just scroll down it. You can follow along if you'd like. You can bring it up on your computer. You can print it out, download it, do whatever you want to do. It's primarily to jog my memory. I have not entirely gone back and reviewed everything about Islam that I once studied years ago. So I'll admit to you right now, a lot of this is going to be off memory. But for those of you who know me, in situations such as this, my memory tends to be better than most. So not perfect, but better than most. Mr. Delanoy said no pinging allowed. Well, that's going to be hard to do for you, bubblehead. That's going to mean you're blind. And no, I did not insult him. Mr. Delanoy was a submariner or worked with submarines, and they kind of have to ping. That's how they see their way in the dark underwater. So he knows what I was saying. All right, so we're going to be following this primer. Folks, serious subject. Islam, most of what you think you know about it, if I'm being charitable, it's a half-truth, spoken or taught out of ignorance. If it comes from or is connected to Islam in any way, I will not be charitable. It's a deliberate lie, period. Full stop, end of story. Tucker Carlson, Megyn Kelly, Candace Owens, all these people talking about how Islam is better. Full lie. No, somebody somewhere has paid them off. They are not Christian. If you can defend the Antichrist, and before today's over, you'll understand why I say that. With as straight a face as they're doing, you've sold out. You're not a believer in the Messiah. So me, how do I purport to have any authority to teach this? I have read the Qur'an. Last week I showed you. It's over here on my shelf. I've got over 30 something books in print about Islam, from Islam or about Islam. I've downloaded a couple dozen. I have downloaded 5 of the most authoritative sources of the Hadith, which are the collections of the sayings and customs of Muhammad. They were free. I got them downloaded. I've read thousands of pages of this stuff now. You're going to learn about the Hadith as we go through this class. I have read all of this stuff. I've read Muhammad's official biography in the English language. Then I've read the book Reliance for the Traveler, which is where they get Sharia law. Those are the 4 primary sources of Islamic sources of Islam. I've read them. Tough reads for a believer in the Bible, a true believer in the Bible. But that's where I've gotten most of I also have gotten a lot of my information from former Muslims who have converted over to Christianity. Now, you might think that they have an axe to grudge. You're right, they do, because they were deceived for most of their life. But now they're set free, and they're trying to warn others so that maybe they can be set free as well. So here, how did they sell out? I don't know. Mr. Ed Delanoy is asking how they would sell out, probably for 30 pieces of silver. Yes, Mr. Delanoy, yes. So the class primer, why do we need to know about Islam? We're just going to get going here. So what do you know about Islam? Is it something you know or something you think you know? Most of what you think you know, this mouse is not happy today. Most of what you think you know about Islam is probably wrong, and I'm not going to say it's your fault. Okay, you go by most people do. You go off the news, politicians, other pastors, whatever. Ignorance and deception are 2 of Islam's greatest weapons against the West. It's called taqiyya. It's a commandment from Muhammad. You lie to your enemies until you're strong enough to just flat out take over. We will get to that later in the course. Islamists have openly vowed to conquer the Western world. Okay, and their calls are getting louder and louder. Just go look through some of what they've been saying in the United Kingdom. They've already conquered Europe. Europe just hasn't realized it yet. Europe's dead. And they have specifically included the United States in their plan. Islamists have vowed the flag of Islam will fly over the United States Capitol. We have acquired at least 2 copies of Islamic plans to achieve this goal. One was acquired in Afghanistan. The other's been acquired here in the United States. It was acquired from the Muslim Brotherhood Holy Land trial. This says many Islamic operatives are already within the highest levels of our government. Brenner, who was CIA operative, it's been pretty much shown that he won't admit to this, but it's believed he converted to Islam because of his wife. And when you look at his actions, yeah, there's a good reason to believe that he converted to Islam. But they've also achieved great influence within our social apparatus and within our intelligence community. Obama, when he was president, appointed at least 12 high-level Muslim Brotherhood operatives into the United States intelligence community. And they have pretty much seized control over much of our public education system at the highest levels. And they've got a great deal of influence in our local media, and they're working toward your national media and things like this. They've captured the Democratic Party. If you doubt that, like I said, go back and read Unholy Alliance by David Horowitz. It's published in 2004. Public records that you can go find anywhere you want to look pretty much proved that Islam had bought the Democratic Party. And that goes hand in hand with his other book on Soros and Obama and Hillary, where he pretty much showed that where Hillary was supposed to be the one anointed to run for president after W, they replaced it with Obama, probably because Islam wanted him there. I've already gone over Obama. We're going to touch on him again right now. He's been acting like a cultural jihadist. He's still doing this. If your father is a Muslim, according to Islam, you're a Muslim. Obama's father was a Muslim. He was in a madrasa while he was a child in Indonesia. You cannot be. It's not like Catholic school. Catholics will allow non-Catholics in Catholic school. They'll allow any religion in there. A madrasa is a Muslim school, and they will not allow just anybody into a madrasa. You have to be a Muslim to get into a madrasa. So in order for him to have been enrolled in that madrasa in Indonesia, he had to be listed as Islamic. Anyone who leaves Islam is to be killed, especially if such a person holds a prominent position in society like Obama has. We know that. We'll cover that. Those are commands that are reiterated over and over again, both as commandments and as examples of Muhammad. That's in the Hadith all over the place. Obama was very accurate when speaking the Arabic Muslim greetings in his religious terms. We've seen that on video. He does not demonstrate the same concern for or to other cultures and religious sensitivities. There's one video of him supposedly in a Christian church saying he would prefer Islam over Christianity. No disciple of the Messiah says that. Obama's misspeaks, saying his Muslim faith, that wasn't a misspeak. That was a dog whistle. Saying that he's been to 57 of the 58 states. This is the Organization of Islamic something or other. There are 57 states. When he says he's been to 57 to 58, I personally believe that was a dog whistle. He meant the 58th was most likely going to be the United States. In other words, we're 5 days away from fundamentally transforming the United States of America, puts that into a possible different light. Jeremiah Wright said, I had made Obama comfortable with Jesus without renouncing his Islamic faith. You cannot do that. The Islamic Jesus is not the Jesus of the scriptures. Cultural jihadists have been invited into the White House. CARE is an unindicted terrorist organization, CARE, and part of the Muslim Brotherhood. They're directly connected to Hamas and Muslim Brotherhood and indirectly to Al-Qaeda. This is back when Obama was in presidency. They were the number one visitor to his White House was the Muslim Brotherhood. Members of the Muslim Brotherhood have been appointed to positions in U.S. intelligence and homeland security, like I said. Obama has demonstrated support for the Shia side of Islam. Arab Spring is the work of Shia Islam, and with Obama's help. Libya and Syria terrorists, mostly Shia. ISIL is connected to Shia Islam. The idea of ISIL, that's the Islamic State of the Levant or whatever. That's not ISIS. ISIL, that's a Shia Islamic. That's saying that there's no such thing as Israel. Okay, that's refusing to acknowledge Israel. Recognition of the name is ISIL instead of ISIS is a veiled attack on Israel, and Obama used ISIL all the time. He also gave the one finger salute at the Arab Leadership Summit in Washington, D.C. He held that one finger up. This salute is steeped in Islamic tradition. It is essentially a clear sign of allegiance to Islam, and the one is the idea of one nation from sea to sea, not just in the Middle East, but everywhere. It's global Islam. So the purpose and goals of this class, it's not to attack or insult individuals within Islam. I don't attack or insult individual Catholics when I think they're trapped inside an apostasy. I don't do the same thing for Orthodox Jews or to Protestant Christians. I'm not going to attack the individual. I will attack the teaching. So I believe the majority of Muslims have been deceived, but I will not be kind to Muhammad or his religion. I also want to explain what Muhammad actually commanded his followers to do. I want to explain the very real threats, political and quote-unquote religious, posed by Islam. I want to suggest that Islam is in Bible prophecy. We're also going to touch on Islamic prophecy. Islam is inside our schools and media. Got a story about that just today. A 16-year-old showed and demonstrated how the schools are pushing Islam in the state of Texas. I've known that for a while. Texas is one of the states they're trying to conquer. They'll come after Florida next. Islam is in our government, our defense network. Islam is in the international affairs. The source material. Most of what we're going to cover today from pre-Islamic historic material comes from outside of Islam. This is because Islam rewrites history as a practice. It's something that they've been commanded to do. This rewriting is done in accordance with Muhammad's claims. The claims are assumed to be true, so history is rewritten to reflect these claims in pre-Islamic times. So essentially, when you read Islamic history, the whole world used to be Islam, used to be Muslim, before the Jews and the Christians and other people stole it from them. And this is where they get the right to reclaim the entire world back, because it was originally theirs. And they write their history this way. Well, not even Bible believers do that, folks. So this means that the Islamic history cannot be trusted. Islamic history, meaning that history from Islamic sources about before Muhammad, you can't trust that stuff. My primary Islamic materials are the Qur'an, the Hadith, Muhammad's official biography, and Reliance for the Traveler. I've already discussed these. Materials that I have verified as accurately citing acceptable, Islamic sources. This is going to be mostly the Hadith. Materials from former Muslims and references dealing with the threat of Islam, which are based on the same Islamic source material cited above. So basically, these are going to be former Muslims and people who have lived in Islamic countries using Islamic material, Islamic news stories, videos, and things like this to explain Islam to you, the truth of Islam, and to show you the threat that Islam poses to the rest of the non-Islamic world. There's some common misconceptions I want to clear up right now. Allah is not Yahweh. Muslims will tell you that he's the God of the Bible. He is not. He is not. How do I know this? Well, for one thing, the God of the Bible says that Satan is the prince of deception, the king of deception. And in the Quran, Allah calls himself the greatest of deceivers. Okay, Yahweh is a God of truth. He's consistent. He doesn't lie. He doesn't deceive. That's in the Bible. So if he's consistent and Satan is and doesn't lie, but Satan's the God of deception and lies, and Allah claims to be the greatest of deceivers and schemers in the world, Allah, according to Muhammad in the Quran, is claiming to be Satan. They cannot be the same person, the same entity. They cannot be the same God. Just like Islam does not mean peace. You'll be told that quite often. It means peace. No, it's Arabic for submission. And Islam is not a religion of peace. The way they get away with this is they'll tell you that it's peace, but the only thing that's talked about with peace with Muhammad is for within and toward other Muslims. So it's very similar to the socialists, the collectivists' idea of peace is the end of anything and everything other than collectivism. So a communist's idea of peace is the end of all opposition to communism. And communism is surprisingly a very close parallel to Islam, just without any nod to a creator or religion. Otherwise, they're very much one and the same in ideology. So Islam is not a religion of peace unless you're a Muslim. If you're not a Muslim, Islam is a governmental system cloaked as a religion, and its goal is world dominance. Muhammad's words, not mine. Just a second here. As we continue with this class, I will back all of these up and I'll show you where to find them in Islamic literature. Jihad is not a spiritual struggle. A lot of times Muslims will tell you jihad just means an inward or in spiritual struggle. It's not what Muhammad said. It's not. Also, those who think the Crusades are a mark against anti-Muslim haters, they don't understand what's going on. This is just an aside, but I have a note here. Would you consider America to have been wrong for invading Iwo Jima or Okinawa in World War II? These were necessary steps in the defeat of Japan. Were the Allies to be blamed for invading Italy or France in World War II? Well, those were necessary steps to defeat Hitler's Germany. So why are the Crusades somehow wrong for invading the Holy Lands when it was thought to be a necessary step in stopping Islam? The Crusades were a reaction to Islamic invasion of Christian lands, and they came hundreds of years after Islam had taken that land by force, by the sword. So it didn't start But the event that stopped Islamic expansion partly was the Crusades. There was also a couple of battles. We'll cover those eventually as we get going, probably next week when we start of Islam and its expansion. Still, I'm going to confess the Crusades were waged by designing men with personal motives, and they weren't necessarily all good men, especially the head of the Catholic Church. So I get that. I understand that. But the Crusades are not the evil people make them out to be. They were a defensive action, not offensive. Allahu Akbar, it doesn't mean God is great. It actually means Allah is greater. It's an Arabic contraction. So why does he have to be greater? In the God of the Bible, Yahweh, never says that he is greater. He says, I am El Elyon. I am God most high, the highest, not greater. Now you might think, same idea. No, not when you understand this spiritually. Allahu Akbar is Allah saying, I'm greater than the one true God, or I'm greater than any other God. Well, why do you have to be greater if you're a monotheist? It's a good question. There are some basics about Islam before we go into the pre-Islamic history. That you'll hear the mention of the 5 pillars of Islam. The Shahada, that's the Islamic creed. I will not say that. I'll leave it up on the screen for you to read it. But if you utter it, Islam considers you to be a Muslim, even if all you do is read it. That would be, if you're a believer Christian, that would be a rejection of the Holy Spirit at that point, according to Islam. Then they have the daily prayers 5 times a day. They have to fast during Ramadan. That's only during daylight hours. They have almsgiving, charity, only to Muslims, and the pilgrimage to Mecca. Got to do that at least once in your lifetime. They have a belief that the Bible has been corrupted. Now, they cannot explain the Dead Sea Scrolls, so I guess the Bible was corrupted even before the Dead Sea Scrolls were written. Well, that happened, 6, 7, somewhere between 800 and 900 years before Muhammad was born. So how's that work? And not only that, in the first 3 years of Islam, Muhammad told his people that the Bible was truth. And he told everybody to read it for guidance and light, meaning guidance and truth. So how did it get corrupted after that? If it was the true word the first 3 years, what happened the 4th year? We'll cover that again in more detail later. They believe that Jews have rejected Islam. And this is one of the reasons when I'm doing the research for what I'm going to share with you the rest of today, I found Islamic sources about the history claiming that the Jews knew that the last prophet would be coming from Mecca. Well, I'm sorry, the Bible tells you the last prophet, son of David, is going to come out of the line of David in Jerusalem. And he did. So, like I said, when you're reading history that's been written by a Muslim, you got to be real careful with it. It's probably not true. They also believe that Christians have been led astray. This is because we believe that Christ is the risen son of Yahweh. Islam rejects the claim that Yeshua is Yahweh's son. Islam rejects the divinity of the Messiah. Israel rejects the crucifixion, and Islam rejects the crucifixion. Islam rejects his resurrection. Hopefully I didn't say Israel. I think I did. Islam is, according to the Apostle John, of Antichrist. Straight up. Just period. But they do recognize Jesus. They call him Isa or Isa. And as we'll see in the future here, in the future parts of this class, he is literally the Christian Antichrist. Literally. I mean, verbatim. You'll see. I'll show you when we get to that. The Qur'an is the original text of the Bible, according to Muhammad. Well, we're going to see that there's problems with that too. Muhammad says he was chosen to restore the original Qur'an. Exactly what Joseph Smith said he was chosen to do, restore the Bible. The correction was delivered by the angel Gabriel, according to Muhammad. But Muhammad called him a jinn. Okay, we'll get into that too, but a jinn can be good or evil. Essentially, it means genie or demon. The principles of jihad. Allah has commanded all Muslims to fight the believers until there is only Islam. That's one of the last commands Muhammad gave before he died. You must first invite in order to do this, this is the way Muhammad said you have to wage jihad. You have to invite the unbeliever to submit to Islam. Submit. If they refuse, you must invite them to submit to the dimitude and pay the jizya poll tax. Now, this is only if you're a Christian or Jew. If you're a non-Christian or a non-Jew, you skip step 2. If they still refuse, you get killed. So step 1, invite them to Muslims. If they're Christian or Jew, step 2, ask them to pay the tax and submit to dimitude, which is essentially slavery. You are on the level of a rat or a dog. You're not even a human being in their mind. But as long as you pay that tax, they'll allow you to live until they decide they don't want to. There's no obligation to continue accepting the tax. And then if you're not a Muslim or a Jew, you go straight to this other one. You get off with your head. And that's mercy. According to Islam, having your head chopped off is merciful because it's quick and painless. That's their reasoning. They believe that the Messiah will not, their Messiah, the Islamic Messiah, will not return until the whole world is Islamic. But there's a group called the Twelvers. They're an exception. They believe that they can hasten the return of the Messiah, also known as the 12th Imam, also Mahdi, which is literate Muad'Dim in Muad'Di in Dune. That's exactly who that is. Dune is a science fiction version of Islamic jihad where they take over the whole galaxy, the whole universe. Yes. Yes. Go read about it. The author admits it. These new Dune movies, it's very clear. I mean, I didn't recognize it in the original movie on Dune. The new ones, I saw it from the get-go. But they believe that they can bring their Messiah back by creating world chaos. All right, now here's where we get into some of the history. Origin of the Arab peoples. This goes back to the biblical story about Isaac and Jacob. This is where it starts. Isaac is the natural-born son of Abraham and Sarah. Thus, Isaac is the son of promise, Yahweh's promise. He has become the inheritor of Yahweh's promises to Abram/Abraham. Same man, just has his name changed later in time. So Isaac is the one who's going to, all the promises that were made to Abraham, all the covenants, that becomes the inheritance, the right of inheritance, of the firstborn. It goes to Isaac. Now that's going to create some bad blood with Ishmael, because Ishmael technically is Abram's firstborn. And in their culture, that means he should have been the one that inherits the rights of the firstborn. He gets the inheritance rights, but he's not going to get them. Ishmael's the son of Abram and Sarai before they have their names changed to Abraham and Sarah. That's Sarai's handmaid, Hagar. She was an Egyptian, I believe. The prophecies over Ishmael said that he and his descendants would be in a constant state of struggle with everyone around them. Essentially, Ishmael's descendants are going to be very warlike, very aggressive. Muhammad is going to trace his lineage to Ishmael, not Isaac. This fact will become crucially important later in our study. Now, if you go to, Islam, history, Isaac and Ishmael, you click here, you're going to see I have a PDF for you. If you want to read more about this, this is a very good, it's 9 pages. It's a very good overview of the promise in the Bible and what happened in the history, both a religious history and what we might think of as secular, outside of the Bible history. And it'll give you some of the definitions of Islam and everything, and some of what Muhammad said. It's a very good, quick overview read if you're interested in more of this. So back to our PDF here. Also real fast, pre-Islamic world. Before Muhammad, this is a map of the major Arab tribes. They were very tribal. Arab is an Arabic word for does not mix. They don't blend. In the prophecy about the statue in the book of Daniel, gold head, silver arms and chest, bronze thighs and legs, mid area there, and the iron legs from the thighs down, the feet. It says that the toes are made out of clay and iron, steel, or whatever iron, and it says they don't mix. In the original text, it says they don't Arab. They don't Arab. That's going to be important to us later. I think that the original word is a clue to us. because that should connect you to they don't Ishmael, they don't Arab, they don't mix, all of that thinking in a biblical philosophical sense. This is going to be a map of the major tribes or clans of the Arabs at that time. And we're going to be looking specifically at this group down here, the Quraysh. This is where Muhammad's going to come from right here. And then real quick, while I have it up, this is a map of the major trade routes going through Arabia. This mouse is not behaving. Arabia was pretty much the center of trade between the East, India and China and everything, in the classic known world all around the Mediterranean. One way, shape, form, or another, it came through Arabia, the northern parts of Arabia, and the areas of the Mesopotamian. So it's an important trade route. And that's going to be relevant to our story as we continue. So let me pull that down. Muhammad's pre-world Islamic Arabia. Now, this is something that most folks don't know about. The majority of Arabia was already monotheistic or heading toward monotheism, which is probably one of the motivators for Muhammad to try and establish monotheism in Mecca. Arabia was largely a mix of Jewish and Christian beliefs, the religious beliefs. There was a lot of paganism left in there, but it was starting to make inroads. Judaism and Christianity were making inroads into the pagan regions of the world at that time. If we come up here, here's you another map. This is going to give you an idea. These yellowish green areas, that's where paganism still reigned. Down here in Yemen, this is probably a little bit bigger area, but you had very heavy Jewish influence because the area of Sheba, which is down here in what we call Yemen today, they had converted to Judaism by this time. But you also had this Christian area here. Bahrain area had turned toward Christian. Zoroastrianism, it's kind of like Hinduism or whatever. We'll get to that. This little area up here on the right, that's more Indian and Chinese. But Khaybar, this is going to be important to us too, because it's going to be connected with Mecca and to Medina. This is a big, heavily Jewish area right here. Then the whole, see the Levant, that's going to be where the Muslims believe that belongs to them. So the core of ancient Israel is still Jewish, but everywhere around it has become Christian. And it's not just Christian, it's a specific branch of Christianity we'll get into in a minute. It's important to understanding how Muhammad came to be Muhammad. So let's stop right there. We're going to take a bottom of the hour break. When we come back, I want to continue into this with you and set the rest of the table for the world into which Muhammad enters. It's important. You have to understand what's going on around him to help you understand him. So we'll see you in 3 minutes. Natasha. Okay, we're back. I'm bouncing around on a few things here. Let's get back to the outline. I was still rearranging things for you. I'll get to it for you as we go. So Arabia was largely, like I was saying, largely a mix of Jewish and Christian beliefs. Judaism was the official religion of the southern Arabia area, which was called Sheba at that time. We know about it as kind of like Yemenish area now. There's several isolated areas with large Jewish population too. The Qur'an and everything that's going to become a very important thing here in a little bit. These isolated areas controlled a great deal of the economic hubs in Arabia, the biggest hubs. This does not necessarily mean the Jews controlled all the commerce. They just heavily influenced it, and not necessarily in the most ethical ways. Okay, I'm not defending the Jews per se, but I'm saying that this was their religion in that area, and it's connected to trade, which is going to be part of the problem. There's some question as to the orthodoxy of these Jewish tribes. All right. This is Wikipedia. I've got it blown up a little bit, blow it up a little more here. And it's just going to talk about Jews and Judaism in pre-Islamic Arabia. It's in your homework. It's in those notes. You can go back and look at it. The point being that I use this quote unquote secular, definitely not necessarily friendly to Judaism source for this pre-Islamic history, but you're also going to find here eretzyisrael.org that this is a Jewish source page. This is Medina. Islam's second holiest city was originally a Jewish settlement. That's true. And that's going to become part of our problem here as we go through our story about Muhammad. So we also have Christian beliefs that dominate the majority of the rest of Arabia, or are they starting to, the more important areas. They were making inroads into it at the time of Muhammad. Muhammad will admit this himself in the early areas of early history of Islam, and we'll go into that. It's in the Hadith. Christian belief, the one that most influenced Islam were the Nestorians. All right. Now, I'm not going to get into Christian history a lot here, but you do need to know a little bit of what's going on here. Mainstream Christianity at the time considered the Nestorians to be heretical. If you read about them, they got a little bit of Gnosticism going on in here. At least they strike me as being Gnostics. They held the dualistic view of the Messiah, spiritual and man combined into one body, not as one entity, but you had a spirit living within a physical body, and that they weren't the same. The spirit was just using the body as a meat suit. Well, that's Gnosticism. This dualism is at the heart of Islam's misunderstanding of the Orthodox Christianity's understanding of Messiah's nature. So because Muhammad is going to learn about Christianity from these folks, the Nestorians, he's not going to quite understand the biblical teaching of Christianity. So this here is a page from Logos. This is Dr. Heiser's worked with these people. It's based out of Jacksonville. It's a good site if you want to read about this. If you want something a little quicker and a little easier, here's Bible Hub talking about the same thing. What is Nestorianism? So folks, I'm sorry about the mouse is, the brake on the mouse is not working right. So the roller just keeps going if I don't keep my finger on it. But this is the core doctrines of Nestorianism. You can read about that. It's, like I said, it's still in the homework. You just go to the blog page, look it up. But we also had another thing going on in here. We had around Mecca, you have a pagan belief, animism. It's the dominant religion of Mecca at the time. It attributing souls to inanimate objects and to plants, like there were spirits living inside inanimate objects, literally. Also that the supernatural powers organize and animate the material universe. So this is kind of like the Force, Gaiaism and whatever. And it's a pagan belief system. You had Sabiists. They worship the sun, moon, and the stars. You had meteorite cults. That's what the Cabal is. Okay, we'll get to that in a little bit, just a little bit here, but they worship meteors. Stone worship was common in the ancient times, especially in the Arabian Peninsula. Meteorites were thought to literally be the bodies of fallen gods. Now, the Kaaba, that black cube, That's a shrine that predates Muhammad and Islam by at least several hundred years older than Muhammad. When Muhammad was born and he came into the scene, there were some 360 idols, were representations of different gods inside the Kaaba. You can get inside it. It's hollow. So inside it, there were these little idols, teraphim, what the Jews would call them, little smaller trinket type statues that the gods lived inside it. So it's kind of like 360 or more of them that we know of. So there's strong similarities here to Hinduism. And the people are willing to accept, meaning people are willing to accept a new God, but they resist any attempt to eliminate their traditional gods. Now, at the time, the chief god, the head god, was Hubal, the moon god. This is also part of what Al or Allah can mean, just the head god, the greatest god. And it's an Arabic shorthand. And if you spell it in old Sanskrit, it's just going to be L or maybe LH if you do the long version. The short version in Hebrew, the short version is L, E-L, meaning God. The longer version is Eloah, E-L-O-A-H. Well, there are no vowels in their language, so Eloah would be L-H, Allah. So be careful with what you accept from people telling you what Allah means. It's still bound by the language that pre-existed Muhammad. He doesn't get to change the language any more than the Hebrews changed their language. And that's what we were doing here, the pre-existence of the name Allah. Allah's not Yahweh. It has become a proper name derived from the Arabic contraction El-Ilah or Al-Ilah. Al means the, Ilah means God. So LH would be, like I said, Eloah. So El Elyon would be El in Hebrew, El Elyon, God Most High would be El, or God, the Most High God, or the gods, whatever. And the point here is these are Semitic languages. They're very closely related. You cannot say that the spelling in one means the same thing in the spelling of the other, but you can't say they don't. And if you want closer derivation of this, go look into some people who read both ancient languages, Arabic and Hebrew, and they'll explain it to you. Dr. Heiser does some of this. So Ilah means God, thus Ilah means the God, or the God above all other gods. God, God is greatest. That's what Allah Akbar means. Allah is the greatest. The name Allah is connected to the moon god. Yes, it is. I've researched this. There's great dispute over it amongst the scholars. Some people think that it's not the moon god. Some people think it is. When I went through this, yeah, I'm misspeaking here a little bit. I'm sorry. It's me. As I've gotten older, I do not do this as well. I used to be able to carry 2 conversations, 3 or 4. I'm thinking ahead of things, and sometimes my mouth gets mixed up with what I'm supposed to be saying. My apologies. If you catch me misspeaking, call me out and correct me. I'll stop. Thank you, Natasha. The name on Allah connected to the moon god, there's quite a bit of material for this. And when I researched it, I started with the idea that, okay, no, it isn't. Allah is not connected to the moon god. And the material I read that made that argument wasn't as strong, in my opinion, as the material I've read that says Allah is connected to the moon god. In Arabia, the moon god's name is Hubal, Hubal, or also Bel, Bel. Hubal is actually a variation spelling. These Semitic languages, the way they're constructed, the words are constructed. Well, I wish Charlie was here. He could explain it to you, because Hebrew works by the same techniques. But the way these Hamitic languages are constructed, it's root words, and then more words are added on to them after the fact by changing a letter here or there or adding a letter. So Hubal is going to be connected to Bel, which when you move to Canaan, the land of Canaan, it becomes Baal, the gods. which is, it's all connected. And when I finally found the dictionary of demons and deities in the Bible, lo and behold, Bel does have a connection to Baal. It's just that it's a moon god in Arabia. It's the sun god in Canaan, but it's the same god in the pantheon, the pagan pantheon, just different physical entity that god inhabits. So it all morphs with the people. But I came down on the side that, yeah, Allah's connected to the moon god. In most Middle East cultures, the sun god was masculine, the moon god's feminine. The Arabs reverse this. They make the moon god masculine, married to the feminine sun goddess. This would be why it changes when it goes to Canaan or to Egypt, because they're going to reverse that because of the sex. Well, the sun god has to be masculine, so that's got to be the most high god. That's how that gets reversed. It is believed that Muhammad's family was priest to Hubal, the moon god. We got good reason to believe that, but we'll have to see. Ancient worship of the moon gods, Allah or Hubal, are most likely connected to the moon god Sin. Sin was the head god in most of the Fertile Crescent Fertile Crescent meaning Mesopotamia, down into Arabia, parts of what we now think of as Israel. Sin was the head god in most of the Fertile Crescent, dating back to about 2100 BC. It's also believed that Sin may be connected to Baal as well, except one of the oldest names for the moon god was Bel, believed by some to be a derivative of Baal. Actually, I think Baal is a derivative of Bel. Baal is still connected, as it's simply referred to, the head god, and that's what that means. So that you got the same concept with different words. And this is what made me sympathetic to the idea that Allah is connected to the moon god. The concept traced throughout time, throughout different nations, throughout different peoples, throughout different religions. It's just the presentation changed. The flavor of the ice cream changed, but it was still ice cream. So it's the same way that Al-Iliyah referred to the head god, meaning Allah. Interesting to note that Baal was often represented as a bull, or a bull with a crescent on top of its head. And yes, I have found existing figurines of the bull with the crescent on its head. Also a full disc. Now, what's the difference there? Okay, this is important to understand. So let me drag this down for a second. If you are in Egypt or Canaan, area of Palestine, it's the bull with a full disc. That's where your halo is going to come from. Your Christian halo is it's syncretism. It's a pagan symbol slipping into your Christianity. The Bible never describes halos. The halo is the sun disk. So, okay. I've also found little gold figurines of a bull with a crescent on its head. That is most likely from Arabia, and that area where it was the moon god instead of the sun god. Still got a bull, which represents strength and might, the head god of the sun and the moon. Okay. They might be different gods. They might not. The symbology is the same. If all you do is change the masculinity and femininity of the two, you still have the same God. You just got to change the symbol. So when I looked into this, there was a lot of reason to go with the moon god stuff, and that's where I'm sitting. Also, it's interesting as a bull with this is a symbol of that crescent. This is the symbol that the Israelites made while Moses was on the mountain. I sense have doubt that they made the bull, but they may have made the bull with the crescent. But also, well, I'll get to this in just a second. I see where it's at now. Many of the nations surrounding Israel worship the moon god. When Israel fell into idolatry, it was usually to the moon god. Yes, moon god or Baal. In Judges 8:26, the earrings collected from the Ishmaelites were said to have been crescent-shaped. So there's a battle there in Judges and everything, and they collect earrings from the Ishmaelites, and those are said to be crescent-shaped. That's going to connect the Ishmaelites are Arabs to Arabia, crescent-shaped. All of this stuff connects. Now, we're thousands of years down the road from when this happened, so it's hard to get all of this stuff in hardcore, buttoned down, yeah, I can trace this from here to here to here. I don't think you could have traced it back then in their day, because a lot of this is history by oral tradition, and things will change and morph a little bit, like the telephone game. So you've got to look for central themes that connect throughout time and peoples and places and countries. And I have done that in the crescent and the bull and Baal worship and these things. They do trace throughout all of the history of Mesopotamia. So Mecca is founded as a center of the moon god worship in Arabia. The local people incorporated the name Allah into the names of their children. Muhammad's father and his uncle are examples. See the appendix. That's elsewhere in your homework. Allah and the moon goddess had 3 daughters. That's going to become important here in the future. The Quraysh believe that these 3 daughters act as interceders between them and Allah. The same thing that the Messiah does. This will be important, like I said, later on when we discuss Muhammad in the Satanic verses. It does not seem that Muhammad started out trying to create a new religion. And it doesn't look like he did. Real quick, if you want, I put this in your homework here. The Quraysh, this is Muhammad's tribe. They had, it's believed, 10 primary sub-clans within that tribe. 10 is going to be a prominent number within the study of Islam. It's going to come up repeatedly. It's just like 10 toes are going to come up repeatedly. Islam doesn't mix well with other people, just like the 10 toes don't Arab. Islam doesn't mix well within itself, just like the 10 toes don't mix well within themselves. Islam tends to trace things through bloodlines, just like a lot of other people do. I'm not saying the 10 toes are Islam. I'm saying that the prophecies about the 10 toes in the book of Daniel rhymes real hard with the history of Islam. That's all I'm saying, is it rhymes really well, really hard, really loud. That's it. So it doesn't seem in the beginning that Muhammad started out to create a new religion. He may have been trying to reform the belief in Allah to establish monotheism. We don't know. In support of this possibility, we should note that Muhammad retained the majority of the pagan practices associated with the moon god. So if he's creating a religion, but he keeps the pagan, that's called syncretism. You incorporate the other religious tendencies into your new religion to help gain converts. This is what the Catholic Church specifically told its evangelicals to do when they were moving up into Europe and the United Kingdom, Old England and everything. This is where you get Christmas and you get Halloween and All Saints Day, Christmas, and Easter from. That's syncretism. The Roman Catholic Church incorporated pagan beliefs. Same thing Muhammad did. And we know he did this. I'll show you the evidence of that in a little bit. It's in the Quran. Most of these original practices are still in part of Islam. Like I said, Muhammad never defined Allah in the Quran. He doesn't. He never gives you a description or a definition of who Allah is. This is most likely because his audience already knew who Allah was. Okay, that happens a lot in the Bible. There are certain things in the Bible not defined, and that's because the audience is assumed to already know who it is. We do that today. So the pagans in this region never accused Muhammad of trying to change their religion. There's no historic record that he was trying to change it. Again, this is most likely because Muhammad did not try to change Allah. He just tried to make him the only God the people worshipped. This would be why it's Allahu Akbar. Allah is greatest or greater. Don't worship anybody else because he's the greatest one. There's a lot of good reason. If you're looking for Greek, Western, deductive reasoning to make your conclusions, you won't find it. It's not there. I haven't found it. But if you're looking like an inductive reasoning, storyline reasoning, okay, this makes the most sense. Yeah, it's definitely there. So Muhammad even referred to Allah's daughters in an attempt to appease the pagans. This is the so-called satanic verses. He removed them from the Quran after the fact. We'll get to that in more detail. The Quran swears by the moon. Yep. The Bible tells you not to swear by any created thing, not even by the temple. Allah does, in the Quran, it swears by the moon. So that's one of the reasons we think that we're going to go with the moon god here. Quran, it's 74:32, the chapter 74, surah. I'll get to that later. It's 32. I swear by the moon and night when it departs and the daybreak when it shines. Surely hell, is one of the gravest misfortunes. That's Allah talking through Muhammad, like Muhammad's his prophet. So that's Allah swearing by the moon. Yahweh would never do that. Qur'an 84:16, I swear by the sunset redness in the night, and that's which drives it, and the moon when it grows full. You don't do that if you're a Christian. So admittedly, these words do not confess worship of the moon. However, they do reflect the pagan tendencies to deify created things and the fact that the moon god was the chief god of Mecca at the time and was probably incorporated into Islam by Muhammad in order to gain converts. So like I say here, in contrast, Christ condemned the practice of swearing by the temple. It's Matthew 23, verses 16 through 22, and 5:33 through 37. So earlier in the Old Testament, you don't swear by the sun, moon, and the stars. You don't even swear by the temple. The point here is the practice of swearing by created things. Islam retains the practice, whereas the Bible scorns the practice. Early on, Muslims were told to read the Bible and follow the Bible. Well, that changes later. So additionally, Scripture specifically condemns moon worship. Deuteronomy 4:19 and 17:3, 2 Kings 21:3, 23:5, Jeremiah 8:2 and 19:3, and Zephaniah or whatever 1:5. So big no. The Bible and Islam don't coordinate well with each other here in this regard. And real quick, put this back up. You go to the blog page, The Road to Concord. You go down here where Islam, class outline. You'll see here the teaching outline I'm reading from. The appendices have those names and everything in it. And then historic record. Isaac and Ishmael will give you that PDF. And Arabia Before Islam will give you the links to everything I was using to put today's class together. We're going to go over the spread of Islam a little bit later in this course outline. But this is where I'm at today. Hopefully, as we go through this, you'll test me on some of this and go look it up for yourself. Be careful when you do that. Islam, as I will show you later on, has a practice. It's commanded by Muhammad to lie to people, especially non-believers, in order to spread Islam. It's one of their techniques. And then when you run into Muslims that say Islam is not terrorist by nature, I will show you in the Quran and the Hadith where Muhammad said, I am victorious through terror. He was saying that the only reason that his religion spread was because of terrorism. He terrified people. And this is true. And it is throughout his history. And I will show you the history of Islam has been a history of conquest by the sword and enslaving those people under him that they did not kill, selling them into slavery and or dimitude. For women, usually meant sexual slavery, forced marriages. For men, you got sold into physical slavery. You're going to probably, when we get further into this and I explain to you about the spread of jihad, the spread of Islam, we're going to get into a book called Charlemagne and Muhammad. And Charlemagne Muhammad revisited 2 books. Islam is probably the reason that the classic civilization of Rome, the Greco-Roman Empire, that's probably what finally toppled it, is Islam. It grew weak because of decadence and corruption and sexual perversion and all sorts of other things, yes. But what probably finally toppled it was Islam. There's very, very strong historical and archaeological proof, well, not necessarily proof, but evidence that leans in this direction. It's the exact same situation we have today. Europe is in the same condition that ancient Rome was in, and Islam is taking it over. The United States is in the same moral decadent position, a decaying culture, corrupt, decaying culture. Islam is moving in to take it over. The pattern is repeating. So it's important that we understand Islam on Islamic terms. I'm not anti-Muslim. I am anti-Islam because it is not a religion. If I gave you the Quran, you cannot make a religion out of it. You have to have the Hadith. You must. A lot of what the Muslims practice comes from the Hadith, not the Quran. It'd be like if I gave you the Old Testament, the Bible only. You can't make Christianity out of that. If you want the new covenant, you need the New Testament. It's the same type of thing, parallel idea. You need the Hadith to make a religion out of the Qur'an. So we'll go over this as we continue. If you have questions, post them, ask them, or email them. joe@theroadtoconcord.com. I'll do my best to answer your questions. And if I can't, I'll either find the answer or I'll point you to somebody who probably can answer it. I'm also going to be adding to our list of resources on Islam on the blog page. It's going to be a constant updating process until we get done with this study. Keep looking. I'll post, the date last edited where things were added to it. That doesn't mean that in a lot of cases, like the outline is going to constantly be updated. I'll rename it. Like right now, you're working on 1.2. By next week, you'll probably have 1.3. That means it's been edited significantly, probably. So keep up with us. To the best of my knowledge, I'm going to tell you the truth about the teaching of Muhammad, not how his people have practiced it, what he taught in his example. The best we can according to what is still available to us. Where I'm guessing or supposing, I'll do just like I did today. I don't know for sure, but this is where I landed. This is why. You'd make up your own mind if you want. That's up to you. This is a subject that should be being studied very heavily by every American. If you're Muslim, you cannot be an American. You cannot swear allegiance to the Constitution. You cannot. It's the same reason that the founding fathers did not want Roman Catholics to be public officials. It wasn't because they thought, well, you're a heathen or a non-believer. It's because a Catholic has to swear allegiance to the Pope before to their own country. And the founding fathers understood that. They didn't want dual allegiances in public office. Well, if you're Muslim, I can't trust you. One, because I know that you have to swear an allegiance to Muhammad and to Allah. Two, because I know that you're allowed to lie to me. And this is why when people tell me, well, we've got good Muslims out there, that's like saying that you have a good Christian, even though that Christian rapes, steals, pillages, plunders, curses, and then turns around and goes to church on Sundays, very reverent, gives lots of money, and then turns around and Monday through Saturday lives a pagan life. That's not a good Christian, because that's not a Christian. You can call yourself whatever you want. That's not a Christian. That's Jesus, Yeshua's words, not mine. You know them by their fruit, so that's not a Christian. Whereas if I have somebody who claims to be a Muslim, who renounces the teachings of Muhammad, I don't have a good Muslim on my hands. I have what Muhammad calls an apostate. And they're supposed to be killed even before the non-believer. I'll show you as this class goes on, right out of their own literature. I'll quote it. I'll post it. I'll show you where to find it. I'll bring the receipts. Stick with us. Got a couple more weeks left. All right, we'll get out of here. The only reason I don't ask Natasha if she's got any comments is because, one, she's not much of a public figure. And I don't want to put her on the hot seat and make her feel uncomfortable. Two, she'll butt in if she's got something to say. I trust that. So no problem. She'll let us know. So it's not like I'm not treating her equal to Charlie. I'm showing deference and respect to who I know she is as a person. I'll pick on Charlie because it's his job. So thank y'all for being here. Yeah, I better rest my voice, Miss Boatwright, or my wife is going to have my butt. I hope that this series will be very beneficial to you. Please stick with it. If nothing else, go through some of the extra material on the blog page. Flip through it. See if there's anything in there that catches your interest, and read that or browse through it. because I can't cover all of it here. I'll keep adding. So keep up. Go back and check every now and then. Tomorrow, Scepter and the Birthright. We're going to trace something that's in your scriptures. That's going to be very enlightening. If you think that Yahweh did away with the Jews and replaced it with the Christians, J.H. Allen is going to put a spear right through that idea tomorrow. And he's going to use the Bible to do it. And it actually tangentially relates to today's subject, today's study. I'll show you. So, till then, hit the like buttons, subscribe if you haven't already, hit the bell so you see our new shows. Share the show if you feel led to do so. This is one I wish everybody would share and watch. Anybody who's Muslim who tells me I'm lying, tell them to come talk to me. I'll put them on the show. I can handle it. I know exactly what to ask them. Till we see each other again, we love you. Y'all stay safe. Take care. Bye-bye.